It started with her phone talking back. It was one of those small moments that barely registers at first. A quiet afternoon. Her phone on the nightstand. A half-second mistake that turned everything I knew into something I couldn't trust. I'd just come home from a grocery run. Nothing big. Just the usual oat milk, chicken, that lavender detergent she liked that I could never smell. She was in the bedroom, one leg curled under her as she typed on her laptop. Glasses on. Hair still damp from a shower. The version of her I loved most. Unadorned. Comfortable. Like we weren't pretending anymore. I asked something mundane. I don't even remember what it was. I think it said, "Hey, do we still have batteries?" And maybe it was the way I said it, that activated her phone. Google Assistant chimed up from the corner of the nightstand where her phone lay face down. Got it. Reminder set. Book a room for us Friday at 3 p.m. There was a moment, just a beat, before she reacted. She didn't flinch. Didn't look startled. Just calmly reached over, flipped the phone screen down again, and said, "That's weird. I must have said something earlier and it misheard me." She went back to typing. I stared at her for maybe 2 full seconds. Long enough for it to get awkward. Not long enough for me to know what to say. So I let it go. I laughed a little and said, "That thing is creepy." She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. That should have been the end of it. But Friday stuck in my head. Friday. She was supposed to be at the dentist on Friday. She'd made a point of it. Said she had to take the whole afternoon because of some deep cleaning or root scaling. I forget the word. But she'd said it like it was something serious, something that would leave her numb and exhausted. I offered to drive her, even to just wait in the car and play a podcast while she got it done. She told me no. Said she didn't want me to waste my time. Said it with a kiss on my forehead. Light. Dismissive. I didn't think about it again until that moment. Book a room for us Friday. It looped in my head while I loaded the dishwasher. While I watered the stupid fern she bought last fall that never seemed to die. While she laughed at a show on her laptop and pulled her knees to her chest like a teenager. I told myself it was a glitch. One of those weird misfires where the phone hears something that sounds like a command. But the tone of it. For us. That's what got me. Not book a room. Not book a room for Friday. But for us. Us. Who's us? That night, I waited until she was in the shower to check her phone. I didn't want to. I told myself I wasn't that guy. I'd never done it before. Not once. But the phone was right there, glowing softly from the last notification. No password. That surprised me. I opened Google Assistant history. She'd used it 4 times that day. 3 were innocuous. Remind me to call Mom. Set an alarm for 8. What's the weather in D.C.? And then there it was. 1:42 p.m. Set a reminder to book a room for us on Friday. My breath caught. Not because of what it said, but because it wasn't a mistake. She had spoken it directly to her phone. With intent. Clear. Deliberate. I locked the screen and set it back exactly where it had been. Then I went to the sink and washed my hands, even though I hadn't touched anything else. She came out of the shower wearing one of my shirts, humming something tuneless. She smiled like she always did, wrapped her arms around my waist and pressed her face against my back. Her skin was warm, damp, soft. I felt nothing. I didn't sleep that night. I stared at the ceiling and listened to her breathing next to me, trying to remember every moment that might have led to this. Every Tuesday, she said she was running errands. Every phone call she took outside. Every time she came home and said traffic was unreal. And I kept asking myself the same question. What room? Friday came faster than I expected. I didn't bring it up again. Not the reminder. Not the room. I just watched her that whole week. Watched the way she avoided looking at me too long when she talked. How she'd pick at her thumb when I asked what she wanted for dinner. How her phone started living face down. She wore her hair straighter that week. That subtle, deliberate kind of straight that only happens after heat and effort. She started wearing perfume again, 2. The one she used to save for parties, something with sandalwood and bergamot, sharp and earthy, and way too specific for a dental appointment. On Thursday night, she packed a small tote bag and left it by the door. "Thought you were just going to the dentist," I said, casual as anything. She didn't flinch, just tied her hair into a loose knot and said, "Yeah, but I might stop by Sarah's after. Depends how I'm feeling. If I'm numb and gross, I'll just come home." I nodded. "Cool. Tell her I said hi." She didn't look up. I spent Friday morning pretending not to care. I emptied the dishwasher, took a walk, read half a chapter of a book I've owned for 3 years but never finished. My hands wouldn't stay still. They kept finding tasks. Polishing the coffee table, rearranging the knives, wiping down already clean counters. She left around 1 p.m., said her appointment was at 1:30. I waited 10 minutes. Then I opened my laptop. Google Timeline is a strange thing. Most people don't know it's turned on by default. It tracks you. If your phone has location on, it logs every place you visit. And not just where, when, how long, whether you walked, drove, or biked. Her account was synced to the home network. Probably forgot that part. Maybe she thought I was too checked out to notice. Maybe I was, until I wasn't. I clicked into her timeline. It took a second to load. Then the red dot appeared. She wasn't at the dentist. She was at a hotel. The Halcyon, 1:38 p.m. arrival. Location accuracy, high. Estimated duration, 3 hours 22 minutes. The Halcyon wasn't fancy, not upscale, just discreet. A boutique place near downtown. The kind of hotel you didn't need a last name for. The kind where everything smelled faintly of bleach and old roses. Where front desk staff smiled just a little too politely and never made eye contact. I stared at the screen, numb. The timestamp on the red dot felt obscene. Like a live feed of a betrayal I hadn't been invited to witness. She hadn't lied about the time. Just everything else. At 5:11 p.m., her dot moved again. This time towards Sarah's place, a cozy, artsy condo on the East End. The one with the paintings of women with no faces and all those terrible scented candles. A built-in alibi. My phone buzzed. Her, heading to Sarah's. Dentist was brutal. No period. Just like always. I didn't respond. Didn't trust myself to. Instead, I zoomed out on the timeline. Clicked through the last few weeks. The same pattern emerged. Last Friday? Same hotel. Friday before that? Different hotel. Still not the dentist. Once on a Tuesday even. Just long enough to check in and out. 2 hours, maybe. I closed the laptop and stared at the wall. I wasn't sure what made me sicker, the betrayal or how mechanical it all looked. Like it was part of her schedule. Like this was just what she did. And I started thinking back. Last month. That one night she came home and climbed into bed without brushing her teeth, said her gums hurt too much to floss. The afternoon she came back flushed and said the hygienist kept her waiting an hour. The phone calls she took in the bathroom with the water running. The new lingerie she didn't wear for me. All of it. A perfect web. And I'd walked right into it, blind. I went to the trash and pulled out the bag she'd taken with her. She always left receipts in her purse. She was meticulous that way. It was her little ritual. Wallet, lip balm, tiny paper trail of where she'd been. There was nothing in the bag. No mouthwash sample. No appointment card. No receipt. Dentists always give receipts. Insurance demands it. I sat down on the edge of the bed. My hands shaking, but my breath steady. She didn't know I knew. Not yet. And I wasn't going to tell her. Not until I understood what kind of woman I was married to. What kind of story she'd written me into without my consent. I opened a blank note on my phone. Halcyon Hotel, Friday, 1:38 p.m. Left, 5:11 p.m. Said she was numb. Ate soup. Didn't floss. I wasn't writing it to prove anything. I was writing it to remember. To keep myself from falling for her again. to remind myself what happens when you let someone rewrite the truth in your presence and call it love. She came home that night wearing lip balm that tasted like mint and wine. I know because she kissed me, soft, on the cheek, almost like she was apologizing without saying so. But her eyes didn't linger. They darted past mine, toward the hallway mirror, where she checked her reflection like she was someone else. "How was the dentist?" I asked. She winced, as if just remembering it. "Ugh. Brutal. I swear, the hygienist's a sadist." I smiled. "Did you get a new one?" She hesitated. "Same one. It's always her." I filed that away. A lie. Subtle. The first time she'd mentioned the hygienist by name, it was Cindy. This time, it was just her. She didn't offer more. Just walked to the kitchen and poured herself a glass of water, then a second one, which she didn't finish. She moved like someone still carrying tension in her hips. Not the kind you get from a dentist chair. The next morning, she left early for yoga. At least, that's what she said. I stayed in bed, pretending to sleep until I heard the front door close. Then I got up, pulled on a hoodie, and followed her. Not directly. I knew better than that. I waited a beat, then another, then stepped into the cold morning light and took the back alley out to my car. She wasn't headed toward the yoga studio. She was driving west toward downtown. But she didn't go to the Halcyon this time. She parked on a side street, walked into a cafe I didn't recognize, one of those minimalist, concrete and glass places with eucalyptus in a vase and no prices on the menu. I waited across the street, pretending to read a newspaper I grabbed from a bin. Watched her sit at a small table in the corner. And then he showed up. Dark coat. Tall. Athletic in that quiet, swimmer shoulders kind of way. He kissed her cheek like they'd done it before. Not casual, but not illicit either. Like they'd practiced looking normal. I couldn't hear them, but I watched the way she smiled. The way she tucked her hair behind her ear and tilted her chin toward him when he leaned in. The small, practiced laughs. She didn't laugh like that with me anymore. They talked for 20 minutes. She looked at him the whole time. Not once at her phone. Not once out the window. Just him. He touched her hand once, just the tip of his fingers on her knuckles, and she didn't pull away. When she left, she didn't look back. He waited inside for another 5 minutes. Paid the bill. Left through a different door. I didn't follow. I just sat in my car and stared at the steering wheel until the air felt thin. Back home, she was in the kitchen, barefoot, slicing strawberries. "You made it to yoga?" I asked. She nodded. "MMM. But I left early. Wasn't feeling it." I watched her slice. Her hand steady. Her mouth chewing on a fingernail, like always. "You run into anyone?" I asked. Not really. That night, I checked the cafe's location in her Google timeline. It didn't appear. Location services. Disabled. Smart. Paranoid. Or both. But what she forgot, what they always forget, was that her car's Bluetooth had paired with his. My phone pinged it while she parked. It popped up in the log under nearby devices. Ben's phone, last connected, 9:42 a.m. Ben. I rolled the name around in my mouth like a penny. Cold. Metallic. That night, while she showered, I pulled up her old photos. The ones she'd backed up and never deleted. I didn't know what I was looking for exactly, but I knew I'd know it when I saw it. And there he was. Third row, blurry background. A picture of her and a group of coworkers at some rooftop happy hour 2 summers ago. She's laughing into a glass of wine. And Ben, unmistakable in profile, is standing just behind her, looking at her like he already knew what was coming. The date stamped on the photo, June 11th. They've known each other longer than she admitted. I checked her calendar for that week. She'd written, out of office, workshop in Portland. Portland. Another lie. I sat in the dark with my laptop on my knees and started writing it all down. Ben. Cafe on 12th, 9:42 a.m. Halcyon. 3:12 p.m. Fridays. Bluetooth sync. 2 devices. Portland, fake. Not for evidence. Not for revenge. For clarity. I needed to see it, stark and unemotional. Without her voice smoothing over the cracks. Without her eyes redirecting the light. The next morning, I stared at her across the breakfast table. She smiled, bit into toast, told me she might go to Sarah's again this weekend. I said, cool. I'll probably just stay in. Maybe work on the shelves. She nodded, distracted. Tell me if you need help. I smiled back, because now I had a name, and names have addresses. I didn't find Ben the way most people would. No dramatic confrontation. No sloppy DM from her phone. I found him the same way I found everything else, through the cracks she didn't see. His full name came from her laptop. She left it open one night, half asleep on the couch. A work spreadsheet still pulled up. He wasn't even listed under Ben, just a string of initials. B, K. But people like her forget that emails auto-generate full names when you hover over them. Ben Kepler. From there, it was almost boring. LinkedIn. Company website. Office directory. He was a project manager. Nothing flashy. Mid-level, the kind of guy who wrote clean emails and called meetings for things that didn't need meetings. I could already see it, the stupid inside jokes, the pretend workplace chemistry that spilled into something else. Something unsaid. Then something said. Then something acted on. He lived in a converted building downtown, one of those glass and steel places with coded elevators and no street parking. But the mailroom wasn't locked. That was the thing about those buildings. Security where it didn't matter. None where it did. I waited until just after 7 p.m. on a Tuesday. Not too late. Not early enough to be suspicious. Dressed like a guy picking up Uber Eats. Hoodie, headphones, neutral face. Carried a generic brown bag with an old receipt inside. Nobody stopped me. Nobody ever does if you look like you know where you're going. Ben's name was on the call box, 4th floor. I didn't go up. I just waited in the lobby by the mail slots. Watched the elevator. Watched the digital room numbers blink past. He came down at 7:42. Alone. No coat. Just a hoodie and jeans, hair damp from a shower. I didn't speak to him. Just watched. He had the look of a man who knew comfort. Not wealth. Just safety. Like life hadn't thrown him against anything sharp yet. He didn't look like the villain in anyone's story. That's what scared me most. I went back the next night. This time I slipped in behind someone with a key card and took the elevator up. His door was near the end of the hall. Apartment 417. There was a doormat that said take your shoes off or die and a metal key hook nailed to the wall beside it. A small, tasteful thing. I pressed my ear against the wood and heard nothing. Not even a TV. I knocked. No answer. Then again, louder. Still nothing. I left. Not because I was scared, but because I needed to see how it felt. Just to stand there, invisible. To know I could reach through the door if I wanted to. 2 nights later, I parked outside his building and waited. She said she was seeing Sarah again. That she'd probably sleep over. The Google timeline showed her near Ben's building by 8:03. His Bluetooth pinged her car again. She didn't text me good night. Didn't even pretend. I already knew she wasn't at Sarah's. Sarah had posted a photo that night, wine and sushi with 3 other women. No trace of her. She'd stopped trying to lie cleanly. Because she thought I wasn't looking. The next morning, I was back at Ben's building before 6 a.m. I knew the gym opened early, one of those rooftop setups with exposed brick and filtered water stations. I brought running shoes and a towel. Walked in like I belonged. Ben was already there. Treadmill. Headphones. Focused. And she was there too. Different outfit than the night before. Hair up. Black leggings. No makeup, but still too done to be innocent. She didn't see me. Didn't glance around. Just walked up beside him and started stretching like it was their morning ritual. I walked past them. Stood by the water cooler. Poured a cup just to buy time. They didn't speak. They didn't need to. Their bodies were angled toward each other in that almost imperceptible way. Her hand brushed his wrist when she reached for her towel. He didn't flinch. She smiled. The kind she stopped using on me months ago. I stayed long enough to confirm what I already knew. Then I left. Back home, I opened a folder on my laptop I hadn't used in over a year. It used to be where I kept wedding receipts, contractor invoices, scans of her birthday cards. I renamed it Convergence. Inside, I made 3 subfolders. 1. Timeline logs of her movements. Every Friday, every cafe, every ping. 2. Audio I hadn't started yet, but I would. There were ways to record phone calls now. Legal, depending on the state. 3. Visual I added a screenshot. Ben's doormat. Her shoulder in the mirror behind him at the gym. It wasn't rage I felt. It was logistics. A kind of cold efficiency I didn't know I was capable of. That night, I watched her sleep. Her body curled toward mine like it still belonged there. She murmured something. A name. At first, I thought it was nonsense. But then I heard it again, just under her breath. Ben. She didn't even stir. She'd started saying his name in her sleep. By the time she said the name in her sleep, I was done playing defense. She didn't know I knew. Still, she left the next morning like nothing had happened. Smooth kiss on my cheek. The way you'd pat a dog who didn't know better. I told her I'd be working from home that day. She said, okay, already halfway out the door. But I didn't work. I made a drive. Ben's office was in a low-rise glass building on the east side. Marketing firm. Tech adjacent. Enough buzzwords on the lobby wall to numb your brain. I waited in the parking lot until lunch. Watched him walk out, headphones in, scrolling his phone like a man with nothing to hide. He had no idea someone was watching. That's the thing about betrayal. The ones doing it always look forward, never behind. They never think the quiet one's going to turn. I didn't follow him home. Not yet. Instead, I went to the hotel. The Halcyon. The clerk didn't even blink when I said I was there to pick something up for my wife. Told her I'd forgotten my card, but I knew the room number from last week. Room 315. Friday, 3 to 6. She gave me a practice smile. Said she wasn't allowed to disclose information. So I said the name. Hers. Full. Calm. And the clerk hesitated. That was all I needed. Confirmation without a word. I left, got in my car, and opened the note I'd been building for weeks. Convergence, Phase 2. It wasn't a joke anymore. It wasn't just documentation. It was strategy. A playbook. And I was tired of being the guy in the margins. I started with her phone. She kept it on the charger at night. Never checked the history anymore. I waited until she was in the shower and triggered Google Assistant with my voice. What's my reminder for Friday? The phone chirped obediently. Book a room for us. I smiled. I deleted it. Then I left her a new one. Text Ben, it's done. I told him everything. We're free. Then I turned off Assistant's voice history. It would trigger Friday morning. Automatically. She wouldn't know until it sent. She'd panic. Because she hadn't told him anything. Because she never would. She'd split her life in 2. One for me, one for him. And the text would merge them. Force a collision. And I'd be watching. The rest was simple. I printed photos. 3 of them. Her with Ben at the gym. A time-stamped map of her Google timeline. A screenshot of her whispering his name in her sleep. Caught on a bedside recorder she never noticed. I sealed them in a white envelope. Wrote her name on the front in my handwriting. Just her name. No threats. No commentary. Then I slid it into her work bag while she slept. She found it the next morning. I watched her unzip the front pocket, reaching for gum or lip balm or maybe a pen. Her fingers froze. She pulled the envelope out like it was burning her skin. She didn't look at me. She opened it at the kitchen counter. Slow. Mechanical. The way you'd disarm a bomb. I watched her face shift. Not horror. Not guilt. Just calculation. You could almost see her reorienting. She didn't cry. She turned toward me, her mouth open like she was about to say my name. But she didn't get the chance. Her phone chimed. She looked down, blinked. Text to Ben sent. It's done. I told him everything. We're free. She gasped. No, 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 no. She whispered, grabbing for the screen. Too late. The message had gone. And now she'd have to live in the wreckage she made. Not the one I made. I didn't yell. Didn't accuse. I picked up my keys. My jacket. What are you doing? She asked, voice cracking for the first time. Letting you be free, I said. Then I walked out. Her silence followed me down the stairs. I didn't go far. Just enough. A furnished apartment on the edge of the city. Month-to-month lease. Quiet neighbors. The kind of place no one notices. No photos on the wall. No framed art. Just a bed, a desk, a drawer full of folded shirts I don't care about. The first few nights, I didn't sleep. Not because I missed her, but because part of me still expected her to show up. Crying, screaming, denying, explaining. She never did. She texted, once. Can we talk? I didn't answer. She waited 2 days, then followed with, I'm sorry. I panicked. I never meant for it to go that far. It was telling. Not, I'm sorry I did it, but I'm sorry I lost control of the lie. I deleted the message. I never told her where I'd gone. I changed my passwords. My accounts. I called the bank and split what little was still shared. Let her keep the house. The furniture. The curated little life she built like a showroom. I just took the silence. 2 weeks later, an envelope arrived. No return address. Inside was a Polaroid. Her and Ben. Standing in front of a doorway I didn't recognize. She was smiling. That tight, over-practiced smile she wore in photos she didn't want to take. He had his arm around her like he didn't realize she wasn't really leaning in. The back of the photo said, He left me. That was all. I tossed it into the trash without looking twice. She thought it was about him. Still didn't get it. It was never about Ben, or the hotels, or even the lies. It was about me waking up. It was about watching the moment someone stops seeing you and realizing the mirror's been broken for months. I didn't want revenge. Not anymore. I wanted distance. Some nights, I still think about her toothbrush. The one she left in the cup by our sink. It was still there the day I left. White handle. Faint pink smudge on the bristles. She hadn't used it that morning. I could tell. It was dry. She kept it there even when she was with him. Brushing her teeth in 2 houses, like she belonged in both. That's what haunts me most. Not the affair. Not the lies. But the toothbrush. The quiet arrogance of it. The casual cruelty. The belief that I'd never notice. And for a long time, I didn't. I let it sit there. I let her sit there. Now, there's no toothbrush. No reminders. No Friday alarms. No us. There's just me. And that's enough. Thanks for watching. If this story pulled you in, make sure to subscribe and hit the bell so you never miss the next confession. Until next time, take care and watch who you trust.